Okay, so I called the McCook non-emergency number again, and I tried to touch on the issues that I've been having, and the man that I spoke with seemed to be, well, a couple of times he was busy typing, but the more overwhelmed I am, the worse my communication issues are. With him, he actually listened pretty well. The issue with that is, at this point, I have court tomorrow, and I still don't have an advocate. The problem with Penny Cooper is that she wanted to do, well, the same thing as Lisa Green, and the same thing as Jen Beebe. The same thing as many of these so-called healthcare professionals. The problem is that those healthcare professionals have gone out of their way to completely waste my time. They want to redirect their questioning continually, and I get completely flustered with it. My words don't come out right the more flustered I am, and the more they interrupt me, the more flustered I get. Now, the man that I spoke with from McCook Police Department tonight, he listened. He seemed more interested in the people who were telling me that McCook was crooked than the things I was actually saying, but well, at least the questions that he asked were directed specifically at the people who I was telling him were informing me not to go to McCook Police Department, not to go to the police, telling me that I need to try to find an advocate. In my text messages between me and the people that I was trying to get help from before Natalie was killed, it shows that I was trying to get an advocate before she was killed. On my Facebook, it shows that I was trying to get an advocate before Natalie was killed. And with a lot of these people, they say you need an advocate. Well, you're right. That's the problem with somebody like Lisa Green. Lisa Green is not my caseworker, and it should not have fallen on her to begin with. The problem is that's who I was recommended to by Mandy Singer, and it's who I was recommended to by Missy Bruce. But the other thing is, the communications between me and Missy Bruce shows that I did try to get a hold of someone. I did try to get help, and the way that I was treated when I tried to get help showed me that I wasn't going to be able to get help from that person. Now, mind you, I don't hate Missy. The problem is that I did send that stuff to Missy, or send that stuff, all of the communications between me and Missy since that date in 2017. I sent all of those communications to Lisa Green so that Lisa Green could go through them. Now, instead of going through them and listening to what it is that I had to say, she wanted to talk over me. The guy that I just spoke with from the McCook Police Department, the non-emergency number, of course, well, he did listen pretty well. Now, the parts that he was trying to pull out of there, the parts that he was asking questions about, and the parts that you can hear him clicking in the background, it's pretty apparent that the part that he was paying attention to is the part that I need to be afraid of, and the part that other people are afraid of, possibly being targeted for voicing their opinions about McCook Police Department or other law enforcement. I'm going to pause this for a second. Now, even though I am trying to remain as calm as possible. I'm not even close to calm on the inside. I am scared shitless. I'm gonna have to talk to McCook Police Department likely while I am having to drive. That's the problem with everything at the last minute. The guy that I was speaking with that was going to go in with me, who later on changed his mind and was saying that I should have them meet me in the lobby, and then he wanted to basically argue with me. All of that stuff that people say when they don't want to actually keep their word, and I'm used to it. Just like I expected Lisa Green to blow me off until the last minute and then give me a list of places I've already called. Well, the police here in McCook, their non-emergency number, was able to hook me up with Nebraska Strong Family Hotline, and in one phone call, while I was on the phone with them, during our first phone call, they were able to give me these numbers. And with Lisa Green, she didn't tell me who her supervisor was, so I couldn't contact her supervisor, being as I didn't know who she was. And these resources that they wanted to send me to, let's pull up the screenshot here. It says, "Hello, through discussion with Lisa, it is my understanding that you are in need of some advocacy assistance." Well, yes. But it didn't need to be at the last minute when it's too late. That's the thing about these people, is that they're doing these things, they're dragging it out until the last minute and then saying, "Oh, well, we're sorry, we did the best we could." But she sent me Legal Aid of Nebraska's number. I suppose I should read everything that she typed to me. "Hello, through discussion with Lisa, it is my understanding that you are in need of some advocacy assistance. Below you will find the name and contact information for services that may be beneficial to you. I have provided a short description of services provided for each agency as described on their website." I have the internet. I've called all these places, and if Lisa hadn't been busy talking over me, well, she would have gotten better communication out of me. Instead, she talked over me. She sent me into a panic attack. She did exactly what these people are trained not to do. She gives me Legal Aid of Nebraska's number and Disability Rights Nebraska's number and a Adult Protection and Safety's number. All of these places I've gone to. I need an advocate to go in with me in person, or these people are not going to do their jobs. So I need an advocate to get Adult Protection and Safety to do their job. I need someone there to get Disability Rights Nebraska to do their job and Legal Aid of Nebraska to do their job. But with Lisa Green going out of her way not to hear anything that I was saying and intentionally flustering me. See, that's the thing about her supposing to be working in the mental health field, is that she is supposed to be trained to not do all of the things that she did in the conversation with me. The lady that I spoke with from Nebraska Strong Family Hotline, when I called them the first time, they wanted to give me the number to Legal Aid and Disability Rights, and I already had them. So the second night, I had to call them again, and they again gave me Legal Aid of Nebraska and Disability Rights Nebraska, except I explained to the lady that I had already called them, and she changed the names, as if that was going to make it any different. You're still calling the same service. She called the Disability Rights Nebraska, she called Legal Assistance Disabilities. The Legal Aid of Nebraska, she called Statewide Access Line. Same exact numbers. The ones that it took Angela Smith over a week to get to me. And I do realize I was saying it took them 2 weeks, but it only took them over a week to get it to me. And literally right before a court when it's too late to do anything. These are not my decisions. This is not my fault. Now, the conversation that I had with Lisa Green, she basically does all of the talking, and it flusters me right at the very beginning when I am calling her in crisis, and then proceeds to try to redirect all of her questioning so that I'm not able to tell her what the issue is. Asking me questions and then talking over me before I can even begin to answer the question, and it doesn't work out well. So I'm gonna play part of this.
Abuse before Natalie was ever killed. Since Natalie was killed, it was all over the news, and there's a bunch of web sleuth groups, and people everywhere that I go recognize me. And that doesn't mean that every single person I see recognizes me, but the fact is that there is evidence that I'm trying to show of the things that I'm telling you. Yes, it is ongoing. Yes, I still have people who threaten my life. Yes, these things do need to be taken seriously. And that's the thing, is that I don't have a safe...
Who last threatened your life, and when was that?
Alright, so right there, who last threatened my life and when was that? Well, that's the thing, is that it happens often, and for me to instantly recall when it was is not exactly easy. But the harassment across the internet and the ones that I can actually show, it's complicated. My lack of abilities with the internet makes it even more complicated. The fact that the first thing I forget is names and dates makes it even more complicated. So I actually, when they ask me a question like that, I have to go through the evidence and find exactly what they're asking for. And it's not an unreasonable question, but it was right as I was getting to the important part that I was trying to get to. Now, for her to ask that question at that point in time does make it complicated, but I try to answer it the best that I can, and we'll press play on that.
The last time somebody threatened my life, I would have to go through the stuff that I had going on. But the problem is that I am dealing with the fact that people are not understanding I am an at-risk adult. I need housing, and I need a support worker. That's the thing with having the support workers that I was supposed to have that didn't do their jobs, like Jen Beebe. That stuff that I sent you is evidence, and there's so much of it. I mean, I am overwhelmed, and the more I am overwhelmed, and the more overwhelmed that I am, the more communication issues that I have. The more people interrupt me, the more issues that I'm going to have communicating. I am scared, ma'am.
Okay. So my question is you said that the abuse is ongoing. You were staying with a friend in McCook. Have you been...
No, I'm not staying with a friend in McCook. I can't stay with my friend in McCook because she lives in Lowing.
Now right there, I'm in the middle of crisis, and her assumption is that I'm staying with a friend in McCook. I can't. So then I try to explain that, because it is important. Her assumptions of the situation versus the situation itself. She needs to know the actual situation and drop her assumptions. So we'll press play again.
Housing.
Okay, but you are there today. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so what is your immediate threat today?
My immediate threat is that if... Ma'am...
See, she doesn't even allow me to answer the question. So I'm saying, ma'am, I'm in a state of crisis. This lady asked me a question, and she's not even allowing me to answer it. She is, at this point, going out of her way to do what it is that they're trained not to do. Just like the guards in the prison, they're told, you never mess with an inmate's food. But when they want to antagonize you, what's the first thing they do? Mess with your food.
Ma'am, please stop and listen. All right, autism is not a choice. I am overwhelmed because of the sheer quantity of this. I have to be able to turn in this evidence to someone who will actually look at it, and I need to be able to do that in person because I do not have the electronic skills to do this, and this is ongoing, all right? The police have taken part in this, and that is not okay.
Now you see how at that point I'm becoming more flustered and more afraid, and my communication skills are diminishing rapidly. I mean, this is already an extremely complicated situation. It's already, people get flustered just looking at it. So, you know, for me to try to have to explain it is even more complicated. I need an advocate, someone to advocate for me and for my rights. It's difficult when it's either a bunch of druggies who are obviously not in a mental state that allows them to help me, or it's people who work for the state and get a paycheck and have an overwhelming caseload, and with the situation with Missy Bruce, with me trying to send this stuff to Lisa, I'm not trying to say that Missy's a bad person. What I'm doing is I'm trying to show the fact that I was trying to get help, that I did have to deal with people and their drinking, and how they want to go out of their way to take everything personal when they're drinking, as if me asking someone to be sober when we talk is some sort of an insult in calling her a bad person. I'm referring to Missy, of course. And that wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to get help stopping abuse. I was trying to follow the guidelines and the regimen that was set forth by Tamara. She explained to me, all right, we need to get you on disability so that we can get you into some sort of housing and have you so that you have an income to actually pay for that housing. Because by that time I was already in low income in Chapel. That was all the way back in 2017. So when Tamara quit her job, I still hadn't gotten my disability yet, and Tamara did complete all the paperwork with me, and I did get my disability, thank goodness. But with the situation with Tim Beeson and the situation with people threatening and harassing me and stuff like that, I was being stalked. That's just creepy. And now my communication skills are, well, even though I'm speaking calmly, it's obvious that my communication skills are not there. There's just too much.
I'm autistic, not retarded. Them repeatedly trying to tell the hospitals that I'm schizophrenic because I'm trying to turn them in, that is a felony for police officers to do that. In addition to the fact that those are the officers that I was trying to turn in. Repeatedly. That is not acceptable. That is a conflict of interest, and it is a safety risk for me. And rather than looking at the safety risk and understanding that this has been ongoing and someone needs to look at it and needs to investigate it, that's the whole reason that I am here, is to try to get help from my friend Mandy. She is doing what she can to try to help me, but she has her own family situations going on, and that doesn't make her a bad person, okay? But she is not able to help me the way that I need, and it's due to circumstances that are beyond my control.
Now here you get to tell that I'm speaking 500 miles a minute. I am so completely flustered at this point. I'm trying to dump all of the information that I possibly can in as short of a period of time as possible. The reason for that is because I don't know when she's going to interrupt me again or start asking questions that are basically off in La La Land. And of course, these people are supposed to be trained in how to deal with somebody who's in crisis. Obviously, by this point, since I had already sent her the stuff on Missy Bruce, it does become a very complicated situation, and Mandy expressed that she was afraid Lisa would not help because of that. And it's not like I was trying to turn in Missy and say that she was a bad person. It's the fact that I was trying to show that I was trying to get help all the way back in 2017 from Missy, to ask her questions about the situation and getting disability and so on. Now it's 3:01 in the morning and I am extremely tired, and I gotta wait on a detective to call me in the morning. And the reason that I was calling Lisa is that I need somebody to actually meet with me and be there present when I speak to the police. Optimally, I would prefer to have Missy Bruce do it. I don't think that she's a bad person. But the other thing is, she threatened to call the police. Missy did. I can't handle all this. I can't handle this at the last minute giving me phone numbers I already have. Yes, I am paranoid, but it is paranoia from experience. With me being overwhelmed, obviously I'm not even communicating well in this video. And that's why it's easier to show the evidence. I mean, that's what I had to do with Mandy Hughes. I had to sit down with her and actually show her the evidence and have her actually read the stuff. When I try to show the police what's going on by sending them the stuff through the emails, they tell me they can't see it. Well, now I send it through the emails with other people attached to it, so that the cops know that they're not the only ones that it was sent to. So if they want to pretend that I didn't send it, or they can't see it, I can verify with other people that it can be seen. I'm gonna try to lay down for a couple hours, because I gotta get everything packed up. I would have loved to go show the officers today, but that's not gonna happen. I just can't do it. I keep trying to explain to y'all that my disabilities exist whether you can see them or not. You know what the great thing about somebody in a wheelchair is? You can see their wheelchair. You know what the great thing about somebody with Down syndrome is? You can see that they have Down syndrome. They're visual markers. When you've got somebody who's got autism, it's not so easy to see. Most of us have to hide it so that we're not punished for being autistic, for being different. With Marcia Estrada, it's kind of similar to the situation with Lisa Green and Missy Bruce. With Marcia Estrada, she knows that I'm not happy with Penny Cooper, that Penny Cooper was not doing her job. And I have recordings between myself and Penny Cooper, and I do need to send those to Marcia Estrada so that she can try to help Penny Cooper to help people better in the future. But with the time constraints that I have, I'm not going to be able to do that. With the evidence that I have, when I go to court, I'm going to get railroaded. I need to be able to go to law enforcement when a crime is committed against me, and it needs to not be a law enforcement agency that is involved in covering up the crimes of their own department. Does that make sense? I don't hate these people, I hate what they're doing. I hate that rather than try to understand, they make the situation more difficult and go out of their way not to understand. I mean, it's pretty obvious that I'm trying to tell Lisa Green about everything that's happening, and I'm extremely flustered and trying to communicate that, and then I just basically end up information dumping. It's too much for anybody to handle, let alone the person who's trying to say it. And the more flustered I am, the more likely I am to dump too much information at once, and also the more likely my words are to not come together correctly. And that's the problem with me not having an advocate. An advocate is supposed to speak up for me, speak up for my rights, and look at the evidence so that they can explain it, because I obviously can't. I'm too overwhelmed.